4:15. We'll call the meeting to order, and Commissioner Gallagher will lead us in prayer.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we just give thanks to Thee for this day, all the many blessings that we have received in this life with Thy grace. Thankful for life itself, Father, and we just pray that we might understand just how precious life is. We ask, Heavenly Father, that You might inspire each of us to always try to help others to be the best that they can be. Be with this county, be with those people who might have special needs that only You are aware of. We just ask that You might bless them and blanket them with Your love and Your comfort. Be with us now as we enter into this meeting. Grant us the wisdom to always look to Thee for guidance and direction in everything that we do. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, I believe everybody's present. Correct? Or are we missing one? We missing anybody? No, we just got a chair, right? Yeah. That throws me off. All right. So everyone's present. All right. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the June 22nd Financial Management Committee meeting, and then we also have minutes from the June 30th special call meeting. Do you want to do them together or separate?
Motion to approve them together. Second.
All right. Motion second. Any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, moving on. Old business. We didn't actually get anything wrote down. Does anybody have a piece of old business that might have got done? Under new business, so we're on to solid waste, and I know we have a report.
Okay. We've completed another year with all paperwork being turned in. Certainly went pretty quickly. Duck River cleanup scheduled for Saturday, June 26th was successful, no rain. Since the event was not held last year because of COVID, participation was down. Hopefully next year we'll have a larger turnout. We collected 1.71 tons of debris. Furniture, tires, a bicycle, building materials, and trash were the larger items brought in. We're in the process of hiring a new driver, Kenneth Terry, and we feel like he is going to be an asset to our team. Again, we'd like to thank Shanna, HR, for her assistance in the Federal Motor Carriers Clearinghouse and getting any of our new drivers with CDL license hired, because when we first started, that was a headache and a half, but she got it down pat now. We had a booth at the Bedford County Fair the week of July 19th through 24th with recycling literature, promotional items for the Nobody Crashes Tennessee campaign. It was well received, judging by all my giveaways that were taken. There were only a few of the reports and stuff, or the pamphlets that I had, but as long as we get the message out there, maybe that will be a help. Quarterly and fiscal year reports are attached. The quarterly recycling report. Yes, as you can see, our scrap metal prices are staying up, and that has really made a big impact, along with our e-waste prices being way down. So revenues from recycling materials were $57,025.08 for the quarter, which was huge. The savings that we did for landfill disposal was right at $8,000. So those two added together was almost $65,000. I've got the calendar year comparison on there. Recycled tonnage for the fiscal year 2021, there's an increase in metal, and e-waste was down, and our amount of revenues for recycled tonnage for 2021 was $107,273.23. I also included just a 2020 calendar year, so we're still at $50,693. So you can see there was a big difference on our e-waste expense, having dropped that, and then our scrap metal staying up. Any questions?
I think so. I know we saw there was a little bit of chatter on Facebook. One of the counties had highlighted the savings from recycling in their county, and there was some Facebook chatter that, why aren't we recycling or what have you, but we want to be clear that we are recycling and we're in compliance with it.
Anything that we can find a market for, Chad, we're really out there trying to do what we can do, and based off of our the amount of money that we're making right now. Of course, I know the prices could go down anytime, but I think the savings off of our e-waste, and then our metal prices staying up, and our tonnage has increased. I think it was up like 80 tons from last month. Yeah. From May until June, we went up just right at 80 tons on the stuff now that was landfill charges. That was for the, stuff that we're carrying off to landfill.
Right.
So we're seeing a big increase on tonnage coming into the centers. A lot of that is based off of the city not being, open on Fridays.
Our tonnage has come up, since they shut down on Friday, starting July, 1st of July. It's basically in two centers, toll gate, because that gets a lot of city traffic in El Bethel. Those tonnages have jumped, for this month right here, and I look for them to keep gathering, more and more, because people now are starting to speak and talk now, so they're carrying the stuff back over to us now on Friday the Saturday that was carried to the city. So, and I want to commend Diane too on the recycling effort. And I know everybody, it's never enough for most people, whatever, but she stays on top of that. I just want to make sure everybody understands she stays on this recycling effort to make sure we can get every penny we can when we're recycling through these centers. And I just want to commend her for what she does.
Absolutely, and I know we recycled, and I know we save money by doing that. That keeps it out of the landfill when we recycle, and plus we collect some funds that help offset some of our costs. And there are some state requirements, and we're meeting those as it relates to recycling. It has been a challenge back and forth about bottles, plastic has moved.
And I know
in
people
and
that
out.
are really big into recycling. It is depressing not to have an outlet for your materials to get rid of it. But, there again, it's going to be the manufacturers, they've got to come up with new and different uses for their end products.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments for solid waste? That is a challenge in itself. All right, up next, human resources.
Yes, also challenges in human resources these days with just finding people and retaining people. You all see it all over the country right now, and we're no exception to that. Would argue that our elected officials and department directors really do make every effort to advocate for their staff and to motivate people to come in. And so your June totals were submitted to you. New hires, we saw 5 of those, 3 specific to one department, and then we had 1 each in 2 separate departments. Terminations, those also happened. We had 4, they were all specific, 1 spread out across 4 different departments, so it wasn't same department. We did receive 4 resignations, 3 of those full-time were specific to one department, and then there was a part-time position at a separate department. There were no retirements submitted or rehires for the month of June. Job postings, again, are always a snapshot. There's a full listing always on the county website. Those, again, go to 22 different job boards. Paramedic, EMTs, AMTs, correctional officers. The health department still needs 1 social counselor position. We have 1 firefighter position that remains to be filled. We have CDL opportunities in the highway department. We have filled the deputy clerk positions. I'm working to onboard staff later this week. We have also filled a full-time help desk analyst position to the IT department, and 2 that weren't on here that kind of went in and out in the snapshot of this report. We selected 1 full-time position for juvenile detention. That position's been accepted. I'll onboard them later this week, as well as we completed 1 full-time position to the maintenance department, and he started yesterday in his position. Always ongoing items for HR, but specifically the ones I would call your attention. We did conduct 401k, 457 meetings with Ted Schote of the state. We had 2 on-site meetings for employees. Those were the first ones since COVID that the state has allowed on, because they've been doing virtual primarily, but we are scheduled to have a couple of meetings virtually in August as well. to notify all employees, because I can catch the new hires when they come in, but just the amendment that you all sent to the commission, where not only does the employee now have a TCRS pension plan, there's an optional voluntary 401k or 457 option to employees, which thank you all so much for doing that. That's another great recruiting tool that they can invest in their retirement. So we appreciate that. So I've been working and coordinating with those, and Josh is going to help me get that out through blasting all the emails that the county has on file. So those are forthcoming. Let's see, safety committee, the recently created safety committee, we're scheduled to meet. I sent an email out today. We're going to meet next Wednesday, the 4th at 10 a.m. And our topic of safety is going to be cybersecurity. So Josh and a member of the Tennessee Trust Management team is going to come and do a safety topic of cybersecurity so they can go back and share with their departments. And I've also been working on 3-star. So separate from grant opportunities, you have to maintain the county distinction. There was on the committee meeting the fiscal confirmation letter, if you all were there, that will go to full commission, but just working on 3-star. And that's what my month has looked like.
Questions for HR? It's a monster of its own. Finding more about it every day. Up next is archives.
Yeah.
She's present, and I see we have a report.
Yes, do you have any questions about the report? I shifted the work from the attic over to the records center this in June, and mainly because I was expecting more construction in that courthouse, and I got and I'm sorting out those hospital records and what can be disposed. And I am finding some of the fundamental permanent records that should be kept for the hospital. For example, the Board of Trustees minutes, they are permanent, and some of the financial records related to those minutes, annual statements and things like that. And then I'm finding and helping, CTAS has been a great help in that I'm finding some of the records that relate to very long-term retention. I found some recently that are 30-year retention. So they'll be hanging around till 2033. So it's things like that. They can be disposed of then. So they may as well be considered permanent. There are numerous other records that we're still working on, and I still hope to get. I haven't been able to get everything else to the archives. We've been cleaning. Rose did a great job on the floors, and so I'm going to try to get records in there that now in the clean space, if you will.
What's the status, and this may be a Robert question, on our air conditioning unit that was jacking up the electric bill?
She sent in a request to Daniel, and I don't know the status of it.
I don't either.
Fix it.
They were supposed to, Rose was telling me just this morning that they were going to discuss it between Jeff Sweeney and Mr. Cornfest amongst themselves.
Killing our budget.
Yeah, well, we.
I mean, I know we know that, but
So we gotta fix it, so.
So it'll be great to be fixed.
Any other questions for our?
Any questions?
Learn more about that every day as well, and how important and complicated it is really to get the structure right, which she's
Right.
really come at a great time.
Right,
That
that's
we're
what.
trying to get the past
Mhm.
settled, if that's the way to
And
say
your
it.
current.
And so maybe the future won't be so difficult.
Right.
We sure hope so. All right, next item is architect, couldn't hardly say it. Do you have anything to say there Thursday?
Thursday, we got an opening of an RFQ. They're looking at a construction manager at risk because when the initial bid came in, it's like double what we expected. And they feel that by doing it this method, it will be within the budget or very close to the budget.
All right. Any other questions or comments about that? As this thing gets rolling, there'll be more to report, obviously, as we go. Monthly reports.
Here you have a copy of your monthly financials, and I'm just gonna point out a couple of things. On page 1, we have the county general fund. We collected 103% of what we budgeted in revenues, and we spent 89% of the expenditures that we budgeted. So that's the kind of stuff we like to see. If you go to page 4, you got the drug control fund. We only received 38% of what we budgeted, but we only spent 25%. And the American Rescue Act is the next one. That's a new fund that we have. We just received the money prior to year end, so there's no expenditure. That'll be later, probably this year. We'll have some.
And it's heavily restricted, but that information will be coming to this body as we try to identify the projects that we can get approval for and endorsement by this body and onto the commission before it's actually spent. Right now, everybody's saying hold tight, because they're continuing to evolve what it's going to be able to be used on. It's very strict in the beginning. They think there may be a little loosening of that. Not crazy. We're not going to do anything we want with it, but we may get some relief that we hadn't seen, particularly toward public safety needs, which would be huge for the county if we can do that.
We also have a request that's getting ready to go to the comptroller about the raises out of that money for the employees. We can't spend it until we get approval, and as well as some other items we have up for approval.
That's the bonus.
And I mentioned to Chad,
Yeah, I said raises is the bonus.
the fire departments in the county, most of them weren't able to do fundraisers. Black Creek did theirs, but it wasn't as successful as it would have been. You've got a lot of places in the county, and I'm sure the city too, that weren't able to do what they were wanting to do. And if there's any way we could, tap into those, he and I talked about that.
So we would explore that. There are a little bit of language in there that we can tie it to something specific to COVID. There may be an opportunity to at least ask for a little relief. And so we'll work together with all of you as we better understand what that verbiage means, to see how we can push down to the actual communities that were involved. Because everybody's been impacted one way or another. It just depends on how you frame what happened as to whether it's going to be something we can consider.
Be fine.
Okay, page 6 is highways. We collected 109% of the budget and spent 91%. School general purpose school fund, we collected 101%, spent 89%. 142 is a wash because it's federal money, it's in and out. 143, we collected 98% and spent 72% of the budget. 146, we collected 63%, but only spent 61%. So it's still ahead of what we spent. 151 is debt service. We collected 135% and spent 99%. You normally spend 100% of that because it's debt payment. The reason we had an increase is because of sales tax. The internet sales came into that account. 171 is our capital projects fund, and you can see we collected 100% of what we budgeted and spent 88%. The 177 fund, we didn't have any revenue or expenditures this year. 178 is our other capital projects fund. We collected 102%, spent 23%. Now we'll be spending more of that this year. And that's the monthly financial, if there's any questions about that. If not, we'll go to the next part. I have an analysis of tax collections. And you can see on page 1 that property tax collections, we collected $206,000 ahead of the same time last year. We didn't get affected by COVID as far as tax collections. Prior year tax collections is $369,000 above what we collected last year. Clerk and master collections $108,000 less than last year, but it's made up for in that prior page because the prior year collections are being collected in the trustee's office and not turned over. Sales tax, we collected $1.9 million ahead of the same time last year. And then in the last page, mineral severance, we're $10,700 ahead of last year. So that's the report on tax collections.
If I can say something about that, one of the things that was related to this, we call it ARP money, but it's the Biden money that's come through, American Rescue, whatever ARP standing for. There was something in there that said if you were negatively impacted by COVID, your budgets, then you actually could shore that up. The good thing for Tennessee, I think we were hearing from the comptroller really across the state of Tennessee, maybe only a couple of counties actually were negative. I mean, despite all the things that were going on, our collections and things have been over. And we've had pockets of things that have run over in expense, like probably in the jail and you see in some of these others, but it's the total, the aggregate has to be a negative for the money that would be considered to be infused into that process. So, while, we're not going to be able to use some in that area, we're fortunate that we were above collections in so many areas that we actually didn't lose money during COVID like some of the states, cities, and
Even
counties
for that
did.
sales tax.
It went a long ways. Yeah. So that's why those funds aren't eligible for shoring up individual budgets.
Okay, the next area is juvenile detention, and according to our revenue and expenditures, we had a negative of $259,000 in the hole, but you project at least $250,000. Traffic school, we had a profit of $58,441 for the year. And I also have a printout of just certain expenditures, and you can see where we stand on expenditures. Everything's at no more than 100% because we had budget amendments and took care of many overages. So that's my report.
All right. Any questions? You're positive. That's a good thing. All right. And then we have other monthly reports, which I believe our EMS folks are here.
All right, so schedule report in front of you, and glad to answer any questions. I'll give you a few highlights. We've had a very busy year. In fact, it's the busiest fiscal year that we've ever had, about 1,000 calls. We finished out at 8,546 for the fiscal year. We did that with around 6 positions open throughout the year. So our people did an amazing job picking up the slack and covering those calls. We finished out the year collecting $2.1 million, a little over that, compared to 1.8 last year in collections. We currently are teaching our advanced EMT class. We have 8 students in there. That class should be finishing up in November. We also have 2 finishing medic school in 2 weeks, and then they'll be eligible to test for their state license in August. And we have some good news. We have interviews Thursday, and we have 3 employees or potential employees to interview. And currently today, we're short 6 positions. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Amazing.
Well, I stress on the system. It's a statewide problem.
It is. It's absolutely a statewide problem. We are doing is more than probably most places with our classes and training in-house. Thanks to you guys and everything y'all done to support us in that class that we've got going. It's really kept us afloat these last few months, and we're certainly grateful for it along with the
On that class, how do you get your information out? Are you going through the guidance counselors at the high school?
We do talk to the high schools. We have actually, one of our employees teaches the high school first responder class. So we can direct them from the high school directly into our training program. We do social media blasts, we do word of mouth. Pretty much any way we can get that information out there. We need these classes full, not just for our department, but for the system. And if we can get those people out in the workforce.
So do we take people from out of the county?
We will. There's some rules, state rules we have to follow on that. Your county, outside of this county, outside of Bedford, they have to be a certain population, I believe it's 50,000 or less, for them to be able to join our class. So Coffee County wouldn't be able to join our class, but say Moore County could send people to our class. So primarily it's made up of Bedford County residents.
But if we have slots, then we.
If we have slots, we open it up to everybody that's eligible.
Any other questions? I think we're on to quarterly financials here.
So you've got the quarterly report. The information is the same as the monthly, it's just summarized by quarter. And I do have a statement to make before we get to the voting for the reports. Our office has been really stressed because of all the additional grants that have been coming through. We got, how many, Lori, at the end of June, 8? We got 8 grants, which means a lot more paperwork, and Lori's having to spend time after hours, weekends. I've done after hours, and we need an extra staff person because we feel like it's grown to that level. So we'll be coming back to you with the proposal. But that's something I just wanted to plant the seed because I think we're going to have to do something. We just can't continue doing the same thing with all the extra work.
And I would say even in regards to this ARP money, federal funds, there's gonna be a lot of tracking and responsibility even after this money is spent for, was it 3 years or 5 years? It depends on the money, but, so it's not just paperwork or somebody filed something on a napkin and they said, you win and sent you $60,000. There's a lot of these ongoing things that have to be monitored and cross-referenced and subject to audit at the federal level as well as the state level. So it is starting to create more challenges for admin, no matter whose office is operating that. But it also, it's a lot of money. I mean, we're talking about $9.6 million to Bedford, and it's coming in 2 pieces. So the first piece was 4.8 million. So you can imagine the kind of paperwork it's going to take to justify, cross-reference, and make sure that we invalidate.
That doesn't count the school.
No, absolutely.
There's 15 million more with the schools, and then there's all the small grants we're getting. And even though they're small, it's the same amount of work as it is for a large grant.
Robert, on the salary on that person, is there any way that monies could come out of this?
As far as the grants, I don't think so. There might be a chance for like, what are
A
they?
year or 2 even.
I think there was an admin fee
Yeah,
potentially available with part of those funds. I don't know.
I know the state told the schools that they needed to find somebody to
About
basically.
5%, I think
Yeah.
is what they said.
For admin fees.
The other thing is, a lot of these that we are getting is a quick turnaround for the finance
Right.
department. They're kind of flying the plane too, and they'll say, oh, this money's here, boom, you gotta write it in quick turnaround.
And you don't want to leave money on the table.
No,
And here we are trying to close the year, and then we got grants that have to be turned in, and it's pretty stressful. So
You don't want to leave money on the table.
anyway, I just wanted to let you know that. So.
So you covered the report. All right, so can we get a motion to, unless there's any other question or discussion regarding it, motion to approve the reports?
Make that motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
And that quarterly one has to go to the commission.
All right, and then next on the agenda was surplus property. Now, we got Community Elementary and Cascade Elementary, and then we also have one from the county that came in after we actually printed the agenda, and that's in front of you tonight as well.
And that was for metal detectors at the old Parish Gym. He's just about got a lot of that stuff out of there, I believe. And I think all the records are out, right?
Of where?
The Harris Gym.
No, Harris Gym.
Oh, yes.
Hospital,
I
yeah.
even went back and got what they thought were records, but they really were, the covers for Johnny Reed's old deed books that he had rebound, and they had just boxed them up, so you really didn't know what it was. And it said record books, so, but I went ahead and got them because I didn't have time to talk to Johnny about it.
So we need, so is there any other question about the surplus?
Is it Tim?
One.
That's close.
Yeah.
I guess.
He's still doing good.
He's doing great. We've been getting a lot of money coming in.
Don't forget, you're gonna let me know some point in time, and we're gonna put that on our thing, how much money's coming in.
I know one of the last ones we got that was large was over 10,000. So and we've got some small.
It's only gonna grow.
So he's working.
That's great.
And this work is gonna allow us, if the body still wishes to offload the old Harris Gymnasium, we're actually gonna be in a position where we could do it. I think everybody's had interest in it, and I'll be honest with you, if we're gonna keep it, we need to invest in it. The roof's falling in on it. If we're gonna offload it, once we get the stuff out, I think that'd be would be a wise move as well. But we'll circle back to this body and onto the commission as soon as we get the green light from Juan that he's got everything out of there. So I need a motion to send these surplus items to the commission.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, other business. Something else to come before that we left off?
I'd just like to compliment Dr. Garrett, but this morning, opening of school thing was really good. And I'd like to compliment the mayor. His little speech was good. He didn't stumble or anything, and did a good job.
The only thing I forgot to say was that you were in the audience and you told me that I would never be rid of you. I failed to get that part out. I got so excited about the other things going on. But it was a fantastic day. Thank you for inviting us to be out
It
in
was,
here.
it was great.
And,
Thank you for being there. We appreciate the support.
all right, any other announcements? Anything? All right, motion to adjourn. So moved. Got it.